You hear my voice okay and everything? Can you hear me? Yay. Welcome early people. Just kind of waiting for some more people to show up before I start playing around with this crazy blinky machine. I'm roughly planning on streaming for about an hour and a half, I guess. I have to go finish painting the garage. This is why my hands look like this. They look extra weird today, because we started painting the garage yesterday, and it's a insane task that I never want to do again. And we need to do another coat today, so I do have to get to work. And yeah, so I don't know, we'll stream till about 11:30 Pacific, so about an hour and a half from starting from now. Hopefully that's cool with everybody. I'm gonna load one more thing while I'm waiting here, just cause this thing it's been fun to play with, and I got some patterns. I don't know what's going on right now. Why are you doing that? Oh, I know what's going on. This thing has a lot of shortcuts. It's super, 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 super awesome, but it can be a little tricky. Sometimes I forget what I'm doing with it. That's the same song. I guess I can talk a little about what's going on right now. This is the Synthstrom Deluge. Let me turn this down a little bit. This is a crazy all-in-one music production station from a company called Synthstrom, right here, Synthstrom Audible. It does sequencing, sampling, synthesis. It has effects. It does I said sampling already. The sampling does sidechaining and time stretching. There's all kinds of insane stuff packed in here. Right now I'm in what's called song mode. And you can see each one of these things right here is a track time, sort of like in Ableton when you if you had a launch pad or something like that, you're in session view and you can launch stuff there. Right now I am using this knob right here to zoom in and out of like resolution. So this is like a quarter note right here, and I can zoom in all the way to 32nd or 64th notes. So the little counter right here that shows you where you are and things is going to move faster or slower depending on what's going on. You can see this little guy is looping right here. And I just launched a kick track with a little hi-hat. And each one of these things has a track on it. One of the cool things I realized about this recently was that it does, as like I said, it does sidechaining, which is when a certain input will affect the volume or another, parameter of another input. So in this case, a lot of the times it's the kick drum. I'm going to this track real quick. Is this even my drum track? This does not look like a drum track to me. As you can see, I'm still getting to know the device, so you're gonna have to bear with me. I'll try to explain things the best I can. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I just went into the track for the drums. Here's my little kick drum down here, little hi-hat right here. So I'm gonna go back into song mode and click into my first track here again. So this is that piano thing that you hear going on. You can hear that I'm affecting it right there. So just to show off sidechaining, because that's something that people really, really like. This shift button affects all of these little shortcuts that are written on here. It's kind of hard to see, but almost every single pad here has like a little shortcut written underneath it. And you're probably looking at this thing and thinking like, oh my god, this display, what the hell am I supposed to do with this display? Well, you don't have to worry about it too much. You don't have to do a lot of menu diving really, because you can just hit shift and go into this thing, and you now are affecting that parameter. So the sidechain has a bunch of different settings. This is the one that actually most people would care about, which is the amount of sidechaining that you're getting. So now you can hear that pumping effect that we're all pretty familiar with sidechaining, which is pretty cool. Go back into song mode real quick. Yep, hit back. Song mode. And I'm gonna launch some more tracks. Hey, look, it's a snare. Fantastic. You can see it's going to wait to launch until its loop amount. And there's a bass. The cool thing about the Deluge is that it has synths and it has kits. And a kit's going to be kind of what you would think of being able to load like kicks and different samples and different slots. And we'll get to that in a bit. Excuse me. But the synth, besides being a 2 oscillator subtractive and FM synth, you can also load samples in for oscillator sources, and I'll show you that in a bit. So what you're hearing here is a sample loaded in for the oscillator one of the synth. And I'll actually go back to song mode, hit stop real quick. And don't worry, I'll get to chat in a little bit. I'm just trying to tear through this thing a little bit so show it off before I lose my train of thought. So that's a sample loaded in to the oscillator. So that's awesome. You basically have 2 different ways that you can sort of play with samples in this, either as kits or as synths. So that's super useful. I've been really, really enjoying that. Let's see, what's going on here? So there's an instance of a synth right there. These knobs do all kinds of functions. Right now you can see I'm zooming up and down the notes. This would be the root note of the project right here. And here's an octave up. I can play these. You can hear they're set to a major scale right now. You can change that as well. I'll show that off in a bit. This one, in its normal mode, scrolls between different bar lengths, or excuse me, different bars. So this is a 2-bar phrase. You can see 1 of 2 and 2 of 2. I can zoom all the way down to 64th notes if I press down on it, up to 4th quarter notes like that. So that's pretty cool. So you can really get in and do some pretty crazy, really micro timing stuff with that if I wanted to. I could do like snare rolls or hi-hat rolls. This is back to the normal resolution of 16th notes. You can actually see the thing going on. And oh, this is actually a 4-bar loop. Sorry, I forgot the bar numbers. They scale depending on what resolution you're looking at, what resolution you're zoomed into. So this is a synth line I made up with the synth. These little guys right here. These little buttons right here are shortcuts to some of the things that you might normally want to mess with the Deluge, with voice. So starting on the left, we have volume and pan, and then these 2 gold things right here start affecting these 2 gold bars that start affecting like the top shortcut and the bottom shortcut of each thing. So this is going to be volume, and this would be pan. Next we have cutoff and resonance. There's my cutoff frequency. Here's my resonance. It sounds a little weird because this has a bunch of effects on it right now, so you can get more traditional cutoff sweeps on that. Attack and release. These are just shortcuts. There's actually a much deeper synth engine going on here, but it's nice that they give you these kind of like traditional options that you can mess with right here. That's delay amount. You can hear it starts to feedback pretty hard, like a sort of an analog delay would. And then delay times up here. You can switch between different methods. You can switch between different modes for these things by pressing down on this gold button. So I just switch between a ping pong delay, which has a stereo left and right thing going on, and a normal delay. There's a different mode down here for an analog delay, which is going to react differently sound-wise, or a digital delay. I usually keep it on digital because analog delay takes up more CPU, and I'm going to take a moment here just to finish these, and then we'll start from scratch with this thing and really dig into it. Next one is sidechain and reverb. So it has a reverb, which is lovely. Not everything does, and I can switch between different modes of it by pressing that down. We already have our sidechain all the way up, so you can see that there. Mod rate and depth. And then there's some customizable ones over here. The last top one that's not customizable here is called stutter. And it's kind of a sample and hold stuttery effect, which is kind of cool. It's pretty neat. And then the custom stuff. That sounds like it's set to glide. That sounds like it's set to like a decimator or bit reduction thing. And that sounds like saturation or distortion. I am just blown away by the amount of stuff packed into this thing. Okay. Oh, Pierre says an analog model filter is coming soon too. That is always good. Yeah, they were at Super Booth in Berlin, and they are showing off new features for this thing. And I don't know. There's a mode, an arranger mode coming for this thing that is going to be amazing. Like right now we have track and song mode, and I kind of showed off what song mode looks like, where you have these different channels and you can launch them. And that's great. So now I basically have like a little loop station here, and I can switch between, different sections by making new tracks and scrolling through them and launching them as I want. So I could have a different section of the song down here. I think the loop length is pretty much infinite. I'm sure there's a limit to it, but I've seen someone write an entire song just with like loops, just like really long loops. But the arranger mode that's coming soon in a new firmware update is just going to be astounding. I'm hoping they actually show off a proper demo of it soon. If you were at Super Booth and you were lucky enough to like check it out, I'm jealous because, man, it looks great. All right, So, I really love that sound so much. Okay, so let's start at scratch with this thing. I'm going to hit Shift New, and that's going to make a new blank song. And as we've already talked about, these pads are your, like, let's sequence something, step sequence something. You're hearing a synth preset right now. So if I hit play, I can go ahead and do that. And you can hear it's a 1-bar phrase right now. I could shift that to a 2-bar phrase. Oop, oop. Now I got a 2-bar phrase. Beautiful. So that's a really, really basic intro to the sequencer like that. We'll get to that more later. But I'll start with the synth engine. So it has I think 90-something presets in it. I like to start from scratch whenever I'm making a new sound. And by the way, I am keeping an eye on chat. If anything starts weirding out, like the sound or anything, just let me know and I'll try to catch it. We may not get to everything with this today, but I will try to get through as much of it just to give you a taste of why I like it so much. So I'm going to start with the new synth. So Shift is your shortcut key for most of the things. I'm going to hit Shift Synth. It's going to say New. And now I have a basic square wave synth. When I first started this thing, I tried to make myself an int patch, an initialization patch, because I really wanted to just like always have one to start from scratch, not knowing that I could just hit Shift Synth and start like an int patch, which I felt really silly about, but there you go. They already thought of that. So now I have a basic square wave synth. It's one oscillator. I can switch the modes of the oscillator by either going into synth edit mode by pressing down this black knob, and now I have all these options in here. Pretty much all the high level options that you would want for the synth. So you can see oscillator 1's right here. Type square wave. Squaw wave. So I can switch that here. There's a saw, sine, triangle, and sample. If I want to have a sample as an oscillator source, I can click that. And now I have file in my menu above that. And it automatically jumps to your sample folders, which there's a little SD card here. This is a 16 gig SD card. I heard that you can do with 64. I'm going to have a 32 one in here soon. I have a ton of samples loaded on here. So let's find something a little less, I don't know, crazy. How about a vocal? Sure, why not? Okay. Great, that's beautiful. You can hear right now, man, my hands are sweaty. Jesus, why are my hands so sweaty, everybody? It's this thing. It's making me hot. That's a hot major scale. This little blue button right here is lit up and it says scale. So I'm going to hit Shift and Scale and switch to Dorian minor, which is pretty much my favorite scale. All right. So that's how you load a sample in there. I'm actually going to hit Shift Synth again to start a new synth because I don't think that's a great sound to have to listen to forever. Okay, so we have one oscillator going right now. That menu that I dived into right here, they were nice enough to provide us with shift shortcuts for all that stuff. So I don't have to go into that menu if I don't want to. I can hit Shift Oscillator 1, which is the little shortcut you probably can't see. It's written right here. I have the light a little low right now because I want you to see how beautiful and blinky the buttons are, but there's little labels under each pad here. So the first thing for the oscillators is volume, and here's oscillator 1 and here's oscillator 2. So if I want oscillator 2 to also be involved in this, I can turn up the volume. All right, so now I have two oscillators going. Each one has a transpose. You can see there's decimal points over there if I wanted to do it in small degrees. Yeah, that's pretty cool. A little slight detune. I like it. Next up on the shortcut menu is type. So we kind of already went into this, into the, what do you call it? Oh, someone's saying that 64 gigabytes works for them. In theory, startup time is only limited by the number of songs. Oh, cool. Okay, that's great. Oh, yeah, the other thing, you're probably looking at this and you're like, well, how many tracks can I have? How many things can I do? The Deluge is only bound by its CPU and memory. So each project, I think, has 64 megs of RAM available to it, which is a lot. And then in terms of number of tracks, it will start doing like intelligent voice stealing and note dropping if it starts to get overtaxed from a CPU perspective. But Synthstrom is about to put out a new firmware that's going to like greatly improve the efficiency of both the CPU and its memory. So that's going to be really, really interesting to see. If you look at the history of updates for this thing, it's pretty impressive what they keep packing into it. It's their support is fantastic. Okay, so I was in type. We already showed that you can load a beautiful choral sample in as a oscillator type. Right now, both of our oscillators are set to square. So I'm going to go ahead and... There, now we have a square and a saw. And actually, I'm going to make this like a... I guess that's cool, I guess. Sure, we'll do that. There's pulse width right here. You can see right there it says can't. It's so bratty. Can't do it. Well, that's because the saw wave doesn't have pulse width modulation on it. But the square wave does. You can hear that pulse getting bigger and smaller. All right. Retrig phase. We're not going to worry about that right now. And feedback. This is for the FM version of the synth. I have not played around with the FM version quite that much, the FM engine in here. So I'm not really going to show it off that much, but it's pretty dope that it exists. There's also a noise oscillator. So you can feel the noise if you want. Tyler says, it's going to get overbridged before the digitacts, and that is sadly probably true. Welcome everyone to the chat. I feel really bad for poor Senk, Mr. Dataline, the amazing performer that always reps Electron products at trade shows. I saw him at Super Booth, and the poor guy probably just like, everyone's like, where's Overbridge? Where's Overbridge? Where's Overbridge? They did just add a compressor to the Digitact, though, which is pretty awesome. I'm very proud of them for that. All right, I'm going to increase the brightness of my webcam right now because, holy moly, it is very dark. 1 second. I guess that'll do for right now. If FM and ring mod, says Pierre. Awesome. Yes, the features in this thing are kind of insane. All right, so we went through this kind of column here of options for the oscillator. So now we have this beautiful thing right here. And if we go back to our shortcut kings, we still have the ability to do all those shortcut things right there. Let's talk about the filter for a second. As someone already said, they're coming out with an analog model filter, which is pretty dope. Right now you can hear the low pass filter there. If I press down on this gold knob, let's see. Oh, yeah, you can switch between decibels. So just 12 dB, 24 dB. Switch to 24 dB. If I push down on this gold knob in filter mode, you can see it says high pass filter. So there's EQ, high pass filter, and low pass filter that can all act at the same time, which is pretty awesome. So you can hear that our low pass filter is doing a little bit of work right now. There's a high pass filter acting independently. Well, not independently. In sequence? I think they're in sequence. And then the third thing is EQ. So now this adjusts high and low. So I can add treble and bass. I'm going to scroll down here and go back to my high pass filter and turn it off. Go back to my EQ, turn up that bass. So you can hear that bass coming in. All right. Cloud Sound says trigger finger circling over the buy button. Can you control external MIDI controllers to the control panel of the synth more easily? Yeah, you can. You can. There's a whole section about in the printed manual that they send, which is awesome. It's this beautiful printed. Oh, yeah, here it is right here. Take note. This is a good thing to have. I can take this on the bus and read it. I can't. Look at all the pages. I read about this thing on the bus. And yeah, there's a more up-to-date online manual, but still, it's just nice to have a printed manual. So we have created a basic patch right there. What else would you generally want to do with a sound? So how about its envelope, or setting its filter to an envelope? Again, there's shortcuts for everything. So if I go into if I hit the thing that I want to modulate, so in this case it's the frequency, hit shift frequency. So now the selection knob here is controlling that. And then I hit shift and go over to my modulation things over here. So I got envelope 2, LFO 2, sidechain. You can mod things with sidechain. Note, so note value meaning like higher the note. You can set the cutoff frequency to be higher and lower. Random, velocity, and aftertouch. So I'm going to go into envelope 2. Now it's saying, how much do you want envelope 2 to affect frequency? I'm going to say that much. I'm going to say that much. And then, yeah, it's done. Hit back. So now I have that envelope affecting frequency. Hey, calm down. Oh, I forgot I'm still in weird mode. There we go. All right. I want a little bit more release on this sound, so I'm going to go to my shortcut for release up here. Beautiful. Okay. Some other options for the thing. We have a vibrato. I like this for like a little bit of analog drift, a little bit of Comtrues kind of sound thing going on. The shortcuts that are up here are also down here, so we have pan now, if you wanted to do that. Synth mode, this is where you switch between subtractive and FM. I'm not going to do that. Polyphony, so right now this is set to be a poly instrument. I can switch between legato, mono, and something called auto. This is where you can start to manage your like CPU usage right here. Setting in something to the proper polyphony will help the Deluge not use up too much CPU. Auto is a really good choice because basically it means that it will kind of default to mono internally unless it needs to play multiple notes at once. So I can still play multiple notes at once, but if only one note's getting played, the Deluge will think of it as mono and save some CPU, which is nice. Thanks. Nice ringtone, says Cloud Sounds. It would be great if it wasn't just spam calls all the time, but that's all I get. That's all I get. I think the sound needs a little bit of wetness. And a little less resonance. You see me like over here playing with these audition pads. There's a keyboard mode, and now I have basically that kind of like push launchpad-esque keyboard thing where I can actually play notes, and it's well, you can still see it. Some of these are colored, and that means they're part of the scale that you're currently playing, but I can still hit stuff that's not in the scale, so that's super helpful. These bright ones are going to be octaves, so that's pretty nice. Let's go back into our synth. So, boop. What else do we got? Okay, so we went over... Let's see, my actual envelope is here if I wanted to go through envelope 1 and envelope 2. So release, sustain, decay, and attack. I'm pretty happy with the way that envelope sounds. I'm going to go into envelope 2, which is currently having an effect on my filter cutoff, and I'm going to increase the release to match the release of envelope 1. Yes, I have been painting. Calm down, Astral. I mentioned this right at the beginning of the live stream. We started painting our garage yesterday, and it's a terrible, terrible task, and I have to go back and paint more today. I don't want to do it, but such is the life of someone that owns a garage. All right, so we increased our release a little bit. Starting to get a nice synth sound. Okay. There are some effects that we can now put on this besides just reverb and delay, which you can hear a tiny, tiny bit of. It also has a decimator, a bit crusher, a saturator, and then a modulation effect, which could be chorus, flanger, or phaser. So let's listen to the decimator, bit crush, and saturation real quick. First is going to be saturation. Next would be the bit crusher. And then decimation. That's actually really nice. Getting a super kind of lo-fi sound. All right. And let's check out the modulation effects. So again, I'm going to use the shortcut thing to go into, where is it? Mod effects. Okay. So this is the type, and I can switch between chorus, phaser, and flanger. So here's flanger. Whoa, you can hear that rate is really, really fast for a flanger. So I'm going to the rate shortcut. I'm going to turn that down. Depth. Oh, it says cannot. All right. How about, it's so nice to tell you that it can't do something. It can't do it. Won't do it. I think it's feedback that we want for this. Let's hear the chorus. And then finally, let's hear the phaser. We can record something and then we can move on to kits, because that's I have a sorry about that, the sound is delayed. Yeah, so sorry. It's the setup for live stream is kind of stupid. I'm still working it out. I'm sorry that it's delayed, but basically if I didn't do it this way, I would be hearing myself talk, and it basically sounded really weird because I couldn't really talk properly. So, yeah, I guess we can check out the live stream. You can check out the archive of the live stream afterwards when I finally get a chance to sync the audio properly. And for the next live stream, we'll get it worked out. But yeah, I'm sorry about that. Hopefully it's not too confusing for everybody. Maybe we can talk about this afterwards if somebody knows how to help me out. I kind of like that. So I'm going to go into, first of all, exit keyboard mode. I'm going to make sure that this is a 4-bar thing. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to turn on the metronome by hitting Shift and metronome. Yeah. Oh, somewhere we have a note already. No, thank you. Okay. So let's go back in keyboard mode. course, I lost the thing I was actually trying to play. That's kind of cool, I guess. Let's do that. You can see the little counter. Oh, god dang it. We'll erase that. That's not what I wanted at all. That's not what I wanted at all. Alright, let's go back. Keyboard mode. So you can see the little red cursor moving across the top there, maybe, to tell me where I am in the phrase. Actually kind of like that little random note. So now you can see that I've recorded this thing. White bar moving across. It's a relief seeing me struggle when it's recording. It's always a struggle, my friend. Alright, we can lose the thing there. Now I have a line recorded. It's actually pretty nice. Alright, so we have a track. It's a synth track. Hooray, we went through the synth. I'm going to now make a drum track for this. So, if I hit song, we see our synth track right here. If I press any one of these, it's just going to make a new track. So bam, now I have a new track. I can make it a synth, I can make it a kit, I can make it whatever. In this case, I'm going to make a drum kit. So I could just hit kit, and now I could go through one of the many kits that is included in the Deluge. This is a pretty standard 808 kit we have here. It's a really nice snare. Oh yeah, toms. And there's a bunch more sounds. You can see these green lit pads here. Dang guys, those are good toms. Even panned them. Very nice. The beautiful natural light of my windows here, but I am at the mercy of the sun. Okay. So just for shits and giggles, I'm going to use this kit real quick, and we're going to hit play. This is a good opportunity to show off something called cross screen. See it in a second here. This white thing going across is telling me that the Deluge is focusing on this particular bar right now. So there's bar 1 of 4. When you make a new kit or a new synth, it kind of defaults to whatever the bar length was of the previous one. So in this case, I have a 4-bar phrase. That's great. I might want to add a little bit of variation at the end of a 4-bar phrase. But in this case, I don't want to have to go through every single bar and program the same basic drum pattern on each thing in order to get the thing. So they have something called cross screen, which is this button right here. And when I hit cross screen, anything that I do in this bar right here, or any bar that I'm focused on, will be written to every other bar in that phrase. So I'll show you what I mean. First, let me turn off cross screen. I'll go back to the first bar. Okay, so great. I just recorded 1 bar. And if I wanted to go through to each other bar, I'd have to do that manually. But I'm going to hit cross screen, and it's going to do it for every bar. Cool. All right. Thanks, Deluge. Okay, I like the kick. I like this. I like the toms. I even like that hi-hat. I don't like this snare. So I'm going to load a new sample into the snare. If I hold this audition pad and I hit load, I'm going to go into my file browser. And yeah, cross screen's pretty dope. It's just like, there's a lot of stuff like that in here where it's just, okay, they thought of that. I feel it's, the feeling I get with the Deluge is like, it's really, really interesting to see a piece of kit that hasn't been gimped by market forces. Like, you know, like people complain about the Octatrack and the Digitact. They're never going to share some of the DNA because Electron doesn't want to they don't want to mess with their market between the two devices. The same happens with like Canon, where like the camera company were like, oh, well, we got this camera that does this. We can't have this camera do this because then they'll be too similar. And I'm not crapping on Electron or I'm crapping on Canon mostly. I love what Electron's doing, but the Deluge doesn't really give a shit about not giving you all the features that you want. It's really, 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 really cool. So let's get back to loading a snare. I'm going to hit this and I'm going to hit load. Okay, so now it's in the folder for drums for this particular thing. So I'm going to hit back. I understand that the screen's a little hard to see right now. Sorry. But I'm going to hit back into my folder of samples that I have on my SD card, and I have this one-shot drums folder. I'm going to click it, and I'm going to go into this data drive folder. All right, the moment that I hit a folder full of drums, I'll be able to start additioning them. So I'm going to look for snares. Rise, snare. All right. Oh, it's not a bad starting snare right there. So I'm going to hit this button down, and now I got the snare. Beautiful. Cross screen still on. Whoops. Cool. Okay, so that hi-hat's nice, but I think it needs a little bit of variation. So I'm going to hold down its audition pad, and I'm going to go to volume. Let's see. So you can see that it's selected here. I'm sorry, that the contrast of the LEDs and everything. Oh, someone says that sample layering is dope for tracks, and you can load another sample onto oscillator too. That's a really good point. That's an awesome point. I want to apologize for the inconsistent lighting here. I really wish you could see more of what the LEDs are doing. They're barely visible on the live stream, so I'm sorry about that. It's either that or everything be super, super dark. Anyways, I want some modulation on this hi-hat, so I'm going to go into volume of oscillator 1 right here. These drums, each one is considered like a little synth engine too. So all the options, including cutoff and frequency, and every one of those effects is still available to every single drum hit here, which is stellar. Okay, so I want volume of oscillator 1 modulated by LFO2, I think? Or LFO1. One of these retriggers and one of them doesn't, and I can't remember which one. Maybe use a softbox next time. If you could see my room, you would understand that I don't have a lot of room for a softbox, but it's not a bad thing to suggest. Alright, sounds like LFO2 does not retrigger in its default mode. Or it does retrigger in its default mode. There we go. All right, cool. So I've just added a little bit of variation to the volume of that hi-hat. And when I say retrigger, I mean I wanted the LFO to be free running so that no matter what the hit of the drum was doing, the LFO continued just to go like this. And retriggering means that the LFO or an envelope or something like that is retriggered every single time that note hits. And that's not really good for a slow running LFO. It's a little loud right now, so I'm going to make sure that's selected and turn down the volume using the volume shortcut thing here. Cool. So I'm going to go back to my original track and give us some cutoff frequency. So one of the cool things about modulation on this thing is that you can mod with sidechain. And I haven't really seen that defaulted in some things. You know, obviously we think of sidechain as that volume pumping effect, and that's great. But how many LFOs are there per track? 2. There are 2 LFOs. Thank you, Pierre. Okay, what was I saying? Sidechain. Yeah, so we're used to sidechain doing the volume work for us, and we'll go ahead and remind us what that sounds like real quick. I'm going to turn up the release of this. So let's turn up that volume down. So right now that kick drum of the kick drum track of our drum is doing the sidechain work for us. Which is great, but it's only doing volume. So let's go ahead and turn that down. So I want sidechain to mod frequency. So I'm going to hit shift frequency, shift sidechain. Now you can see these two are blinking. That means that sidechain wants to mod frequency. So now we have this really cool effect where the kick drum is affecting the filter of this thing. I think that's fucking amazing. Like with Ableton, and like with a lot of things that I do in production, sometimes you don't want the actual kick drum to be your sidechain signal, and I'll show you why. So that's great. There's no sidechain on anything right now. When I turn this on, you'll start hearing the sidechain. And maybe that's what you want. Maybe you want every single time your drum line comes in to, that's the only time you want to hear any kind of sidechain effect. But a lot of times, especially with volume sidechaining, I don't want it to go away just because the kick went away. So I'm not going to show this off right now because we don't need to, but basically yesterday I found out that I could create a silent sidechain track. I could put a kick drum on this track right here, have it be the only thing that sends to the sidechain, because there's a send button right here for all the different drums and whatever. You can choose how much is sent to the sidechain. New Split says that it's not really sure if you being good at unintentionally selling the Deluge or it's really awesome and it's much better alternative to Digitact. They're different animals. If someone came to me and was like, should I get an OP1 or a Digitact or a Deluge? For the price, I would actually at this point maybe consider taking a look at the Deluge instead. They're almost the same price point, kind of. All right. Anyways, so how's it powered? Guess it does not run on batteries. Friend, it does run on batteries. This is just the USB cable plugged in right here. It's charged. I could take this out and it would run. I could take this anywhere. And yeah, it fits in a little bag. It also takes a power brick in if you want to go that way. But yeah, I know. It runs on batteries. What the hell? Anyways, let me finish up this train of thought with the silent sidechain. So I could put a sidechain track on a track up here, which is what I did with another song, where I just went into Kit, made a kick drum, and muted it. I turned the volume all the way down using the volume thing, but turned the send up, which is this little shortcut right here, to the sidechain, and turned the send down on all my other kick drum tracks. And whenever this track was playing, even though I couldn't hear it, it was the sidechain signal. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. Okay, so what else could I talk about here? There are some advanced sequencer stuff that I want to just say exist that I haven't really gotten a chance to jump into, and that's the Digitact was mentioned. I love the Digitacts. I've done a lot of work with it. I've made a bunch of videos with it. I still love it. And one of the reasons that I love it is because of the sequencer. Electron sequencer is fantastic. It's got these conditional triggers, which allow you to set probability or neighbor. It basically, like, I can say like anywhere from 0 to 100% probability for this particular step to exist. Or I can say only play this step once every 4 measure or 4 repeats of this bar, or only play this if its neighboring step has played. This has that too. And I haven't dived into it yet, so I'm not going to show it off today, but this has conditional triggers, which is crazy. Okay, so I guess let's talk about time stretching, because the fact that this does time stretching is pretty awesome. So I'm going to go into a new track, and there's that preset we keep on hearing. since you can load samples into either a synth or a kit, if you're just dealing with a drum loop, I don't know. It's up to you what you want to load the sample into. I'm going to load it into a synth. I just made a blank synth by hitting Shift Synth. And sort of just like with the kits, if you want to load a sample into something, hold down the pad and hit load. Now I'm in my sample loading. So I'm going to go back to, let's see, my drum loops, which are near the top. Drum loops. What do I got? I have boom bap loops. I have drum and bass loops. That's it. Oh, wait, I have all the breaks. Okay.
Children grow.
I'm just going through drum loops to try to find something that I'd like. It's the life of a producer, is just scrolling through samples 90% of the time. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. For the sake of what we're doing right now, let's do that. Okay. I'm going to mute the other tracks. Wow, that was the longest thing in existence that I had to try to figure out right now. God, wow. Okay, so now that I've gotten that figured out, basically the way that stretch works is that long bar that I was talking about, like how you can see how it's like going for that duration, that is telling the Deluge how much you want to stretch this drum loop. And the drum loop is 2 bars long right now. I could go into the start and end point for the sample and change it to 1 bar if I wanted to by adjusting the sample end time, and then I would only need to see 1 bar of it here. But so because it's 2 bars, I need a 2-bar phrase, and it's going to put that thing along the entire 2 bars. If I shrunk this down to 1 bar by holding down the sample trigger and pushing the length that I want it to be, and I can do the same over here by holding down, you can hear that it's half-time the whole thing. New Split says, I think the chat window is not updating. Is it okay for y'all? Okay, anyways. So you can hear I half-timed that drum loop. And if I hold it down for the entire length, it's going the entire length. There's also a slice mode and a cut mode for this thing, so I could slice the stuff up and down, which would be pretty awesome. Excuse me, that didn't make any sense. I can slice this drum loop to different trigger pads and do like chops, like jungle chops, like you would do with like the Amen break or something like that. And then when you think about doing stretching or chopping, you can also apply that to melodic loops too. I think I have a song saved somewhere, which I might try to bring up, that has like one of these drum loops with some melodic stuff in it that I chopped up, and it was really, really fun. Kind of get that like Daft Punk French disco thing going on, which I'm a big fan of. Okay, so we've spent an inordinate amount of time talking about stretching a drum loop. I'm going to turn tap tempo off, go back to song mode, bring these things up. So despite the fact that we have this drum loop stretched, because it is a drum loop that is played by a human, it is not going to fit well with our, what do you call it, with our very quantized drum machine thing. So we're not going to use this drum loop. I just kind of wanted to show it off. And what I really, really would like to do is have a bass. So I'm going to turn this drum loop into something that I can use as a bass. So I showed this off a little bit before. I'm going to go into Shift Oscillator 1. Excuse me. I'm going to hold down this and load, get out of these drum loops, and go into my melodic one-shots. Let's see. One-shot drums, one-shot melodics. I'm going to show off, in a little bit, I'm going to show off how it does single-cycle waveform stuff, because that's pretty cool. Oh, I know where I want to go. I want to go into the Samplified folder, because this bass for the Lo-Fi and Chill pack is really good. I've been using it a ton. Yeah, that one. Okay. So now I've just loaded in that sample. And basses are, at least most synth basses and stuff like that, are generally monophonic. So I'm going to go into the polyphony here and make this mono. Actually, I'm going to make it, yeah, I'm going to make it mono. Cool. Go into our keyboard mode and just mess around with it. You don't need to shift for a lot of shortcuts. The sound audition pad hold plus the parameter pad work too. Wow, I did not know that. Thank you, Pierre. That's awesome. Sure, we'll do that. Record. We forgot to set our track length back to something 4 bars after that really, really fun time with the, what do you call it, with the drum loop. And I know there's a way to just clear all this. Like I said, I still don't know my way around this all the way. So sorry if I'm like flailing a little bit, but I'm learning things thanks to Pierre and all you fine people here. Let's see, is that what I want? I think that's what I want. So back to keyboard mode. Boop. Turn up the sidechain on this. You can press the back button to undo or clear a track, and you can press left, right knob back. Oh, okay, cool. Thanks. So let's that's not a bad bass. Let's go ahead and add a second oscillator to it, and we can mix a sample sound with an oscillator sound, or we could mix 2 samples if we wanted to, but we're going to do an oscillator in this case. So I'm going to turn up oscillator 2, and that's bringing out the fact that I suck at playing keyboards. So let's find that errant note. It's right there. Okay, cool. So that's 3 tracks. Let's do a pad, I guess. Hey, Pierre, is there anything that you can think of that's like super, super cool to show off that you can mention in chat? I'm kind of just like drifting around here doing random stuff, but if there's anything that you can think of that's really cool, let me know and I'll try to show it off. I want a pad here. So let's go ahead and shift synth. And sometimes I just start off with the bass square wave because it's nice and punchy, and then I go and adjust it after I've recorded my thing. So I'm going to turn up volume ducking because I know I'm going to want that on this pad. Something like this. Thank you, Pierre. I'm going to go to keyboard mode. If the sound's getting glitchy, I'm afraid it's probably through Ableton itself. It'd be great if you could talk about what it can't do. Let me fix my pad real quick, and then maybe I'll try to think about what it can't do. If the sound continues to be terrible, let me know. I believe sometimes it's just a hiccup with the stream. I'm going to go back into track mode. and get out of keyboard mode. Show off that tempo? Sure, I can show off that tempo. Let me fix this pad because it's driving me crazy. So here's that shitty note that I want to get rid of. That audition pad shortcut for stuff is real. Thank you for that. That's so cool. So that's cool. That pad's all right. One thing I wanted to show you was, so we already went over that in song mode, FM external gear is out. Yeah, I don't really feel comfortable with the FM engine yet. I mean, it's not something I've jumped into. To be honest, I'm not super great at FM in general, but because this thing is such a capable sound design beast, I do want to experiment with FM. I am curious, and I'll have to try this out, but I'm going to ask it right now in case Pierre knows. Poly, non-standard track lengths, or triplets, view, tempo range, cut patterns, custom patterns, cut and paste. Let's see. I can show off triplets view, tempo range, sure. Custom parameters I'm not solid on yet, and cut and paste I'm not solid on yet. So it's good that we know you can do these things, but I'm not super solid on them yet. I've only had this thing for about, I don't know, a week and a half, and having a full-time job and a house to take care of eats up a lot of time. So I only get to really play with this a few hours a night if I'm lucky. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. In song mode, you can use these to trigger things, which we already sort of covered. So when I... Oh, Jesus. What did I just do? That phaser's got a bit of... too much on it. What's up, T-Mad? Anyways, what I wanted to show off was that, so obviously in this track mode for every single instrument that you've created, you have access to all the parameters, all that stuff. And it's very easy to get to what you want and do what you think. But in song mode, you're looking at patterns. But the cool thing that the Deluge allows you to do is if I hold down one of these pads over here corresponding to the track I want to mess with. So this is our drum track. I think this is our drum track. It is. Okay. So if I hold down a pad to correspond with that thing, you can see that it lights up over here. I just went into the actual track itself. This means that I can control the parameters in song mode here that I want by holding down the corresponding pad. So that means in song mode, I can go through this and still I can launch patterns, I can stop patterns, and then I can still play with all of these effects here. So when Pierre was talking about Pierre was talking about custom stuff here, you can set custom things for these knobs, and you can just really go to town in song mode. Which is pretty damn cool. Let me go back into here and change this back to a low pass filter. There we go. Cool. Touch on the effects routing, entire effect too. I can talk about that, sure. Let's handle that real quick. Right here it says affect entire song versus track. If I go to song, let's see. There we go. So affect entire song is now on. So now these effects, it's kind of like control all in the Digitax. So affect entire song. Now these knobs are doing they're doing these effects to the entire song, which is pretty cool. So that was the stutter on the entire song as opposed to on the track itself. So yeah. Effects per step. Yeah, you can. You can lock effects per step. Let's see. Let me go ahead and go into my drum track. I think that's this. Boop. Let me mute all the other stuff. Yeah, we haven't talked about automation at all, really. Cool. All right, so snare. I don't want cross screen on. Let's go all the way back to our first bar. Poison. So let me find something obvious like reverb. Hold down that pad, turn up the reverb. Whoops, I'm sorry. I kind of messed that up. Turn down the reverb. There we go. You can hear that first snare now has reverb on it because I turned it up while I put it in. The second one does not. I can kind of like select a bunch of hi-hats here and turn up their reverb. So effects per step, yeah. Is that the actual sidechain routing, or are you simulating the effect with something like velocity? Yeah, no, it's actual sidechain routing. Yeah, it's for real. And so let me go back into a synth voice so you can hear what that sounds like on a synth, maybe. Boop, boop, boop. Actually, this would be good to show off like regular sidechain, or excuse me, regular effects automation. Okay, so if I hit record, make sure I'm in the right. There we go. If I hit record, see how this is moving now? I just recorded that automation. Yeah, Pierre's correct. You can choose a time sync from the sidechain. I think it defaults at an 8th note, which is pretty normal. Cool. So that's automation. You can hold down pads, you can knobby knob, and you can record automation in real time. So yes, per step automation is a thing. Okay, what else did Pierre talk about? Oh, yeah, so let's see. Let me go back into that drum track, because for triplets view and micro timing, I haven't really showed this off yet. So I'm going to go into cross screen just because by the time I zoom in, it's going to be very hard for me to move around this screen. So this knob held down adjusts the resolution of your grid here. This is 16th notes. You can see 16th notes going across the board like that. That's great. If I hold it down, I'm now down at 64th notes. So I can scoot along my pattern. Oops, excuse me, that's up and down. Scoot along my pattern like this, all of it. But I can also program 64th notes now. Which is pretty awesome. I could do 32nd notes if I wanted to. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. Now, if I go into triplets view here, now they have just, and this is pretty damn cool because some people complain about like doing 6/8 timing on, yes, it is fast hats. Now I'm in triplets view. And let me go to 16th notes. So the grid is now divided in triplets as opposed to like a quarter note. Excuse me. It's in subdivisions of 3 as opposed to subdivisions of 4. Oops, that's not right. I think I need 8th note triplets. Let me fix that. Do. I'm going to go up here and make a new sound that we can tripletize. Hold on a second. Loops, no. Drums, yes. Hi-hat, yes. Sure. Huh, why am I not tripleting? See, Pierre says, system settings allow you to go even finer than 64th. Unquantized recording is also coming. That's awesome. Now if I could just figure out why I'm not tripleting. I'm in triplets view. Let's see. Anyways, I'm sure there's a proper reason I'm not properly tripleting, and I don't know what it is. That's not right. Sorry, everybody. I'm not an expert on this thing yet. Not like the OP1. You know, it took me... I've had the OP1 since like 2012. And it's only like in the last couple of years that I was making videos with it. It took me that long, minus maybe a year or so, to get to where I am with that thing. These devices that you can do the amazing things with that you see people doing them, it takes a long time to get to know. So something as deep as the Deluge or the OP1 or an Octatrack or the Detect, or even a good subtractive synth, it takes a while to really get to know it to the point where you can really do whatever you want. So practicing is important, especially if you plan on doing a live stream about it and pretending to be an authority on it, which I am currently failing at. Let's see. I'm going to scroll back up in the chat and see what else was suggested. Oh, tempo range. Yeah, sure. Let's talk about tempo range. Here's our tempo button right here. And if you press it down, it's swing. I think. Oh, shift. I think shift does swing. Sorry. Yeah. Sounds like 90s R&B. So 50, or you can just go to off right here. Oh, negative swing? Damn, that's cool. I didn't know it did that. You've been trying to get your mini brute not to sound like a distorted monster for 2 years now. Is it the original mini brute? Hold on. I'm going to show off tempo real quick. I don't know if you can see this. All it says right here is fast. So before we hit fast, we were at like 1,000 BPM. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Almost 10,000 BPM. There's 120. Zero BPM, everybody. Deluge goes to 0 BPM. The most useful BPM. It's the most chill. Gotta chill out at 0 BPM. All right. That was fun. I'm going to load. I like this song. So I'll show off saving and loading real quick. Go back into song. So now that I'm in, when I'm in song mode or any other any mode that doesn't involve editing one of these kits or synths, if I hit save, it is going to let me save. Oh, it's like a number. First of all, it has 1,000 save slots or 999 save slots. Turn it to 0 BPM so you could pick up the mic and tell your audience to make some noise and put their hands up. Yes. Sounds like the end of a Zed show. Fast. So the Deluge has iterative saving. So you can see it says 999 like A, B, C, D, E. That means that slot 999 has A, B, C, D, and E iterative save. Like it has different versions of the same thing in it. So basically whenever you hit save, once you've decided on your original slot for it, it will create an iteration of that. And at first I was kind of confused as to why I would want this. Like I'm used to saving patches and songs just directly to a slot. Like, you know, you got a synth. I'm going to say, oh, I'm saving this to slot like 120. And there it is. That's it. But here, when you hit save again, it's going to iterate that letter one more. So, you know, 120A, 120B, 120C. And there's two things that I can think of this is good for. One, you're kind of creating like a history of the project. So if you really mess something up, you can go back to a previous letter and maybe, you know, get the thing you messed up. The other thing that is cool about it is, and this is something that I got through asking this question of the Synthstrom people themselves, is different versions of like different mixes of the same song or variations of the same sound. So like, I think one of the mentions was like, all right, I'm going to, what do you call it? I'm going to make like an ambient mix of this particular song, and I'm going to save it on another iteration. Oh, here's my dub remix. Here's my house remix, blah, blah, blah. So that's pretty cool. I can also see the same with like a sound. So, or a kit, you can have different mixes of that kit or different versions of that sound. So anyways, that's something that's a little unique and, might be interesting to some people. You can also see this little dot right here. Hopefully that means that something has been saved to that slot. So I'm going to save this thing to 995. Now, if I want to save a kit or a sound, I can go into that sound. Again, now that I'm in the sound, anything that if I hit save, I'm still going to be hitting a save on the song itself. Excuse me. But if I go into edit any one of these parameters, so now I'm in the synth edit mode and I hit save, it is going to be like, hey, you're now saving the synth. So let me go find a blank spot and save that sound. If you do create custom sounds for your piece, for your song, they are saved with the song. But if you want them available to other songs, you need to save the synth patch to the Deluge's memory. And that's saved to this little SD card that's sticking in right here. Kind of hard to see. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I can do the same with the kit if I want. Do you guys have any more questions about this? I know Pierre jumped off to get some espresso, and I think he's kind of an expert on this, probably more so than me. But let me like throw some questions out to you. Downrush. Oh yeah, very true. If you guys go to the, if you search Google for the Synthstrom, is there mix pattern link? Yes, there is, and I'll show you that off in a second. If you go to the Synthstrom forum, there's also a Facebook group, I believe. Someone made something called Downrush, which is a Wi-Fi enabled editor. And you can stick a Wi-Fi SD card in here and edit almost everything in here via like your phone or stuff like that. You can manage samples. You can save stuff. Do you know how to make tracks different lengths? So everyone wants to hear about different pattern lengths. So let's go ahead and do that. I have actually been doing that this whole time. I've just been setting things to the same sort of like 4/4 rigid thing. So getting out of triplets view, go into my song. Actually, let's just make a new song because this will make it easier to tell what's going on. So shift new makes a new song. I'm gonna go into kit. Actually, I'm gonna go make a new synth. Okay, there we go. I'm trying to think of the best way to demonstrate this. First of all, let me just add some stuff. Okay, so that is one bar, one regular normal bar. If I hit shift, excuse me. Oh, that was right. Okay. This is kind of hard to see because the LEDs that show this off are dimmer than what's going on here. So I am holding shift, and can you see those slightly dimmed blinky LEDs right here? That's now the bar length. So by holding shift, I can move this bar length. Oh, sorry. Yeah, is it shift? Yeah. I can change this to whatever I want. Literally whatever. So now it's some random amount. So now if I go to song and I make a new kit, and I make this a different length. Isn't that beautiful? Did you actually show off iterative dependent polytrick? No, that's not something I've actually practiced with yet, so unfortunately I'm not going to be able to show that off. I talked about it, but I said it exists, but I have not touched it. Is that a good example of... you can hear they're completely different, and again, you can set everything to different lengths. Every single track can be a different length if you want it to. Does that make sense? Yeah, Alohum is correct. The new arranger mode is going to be an absolute game changer with this thing. It's going to be super, 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 super cool. Everyone complains that the Digitact and the Digitone don't have a song mode. Well, this thing... And don't get confused. There already is a song mode in here, but the arranger mode is what people expect from like the Digitact or the Digitone, and the one that's coming in here is going to be really, really, really cool. I am feeling like I have talked a little bit about pretty much everything that I can with this at this point. I'm a little tapped out in terms of stuff I can think of. There's that track I was talking about earlier that has the chopped up drum also have its stretch, so that's nice. Some words about build quality. This is built like a gosh darn tank. It's got wood, which we know makes everything sound better. The pads feel really, really good. The knobs feel really, really good. I have absolutely no complaints about the build quality. I want to be careful with it because it's a beautiful piece of gear, but like it's really, really, really well built. I can't stress enough, like, I've never seen something that has so much thought put into it. Oh, it also, you can sample directly into this little microphone here, or a line in, and yeah, that's pretty cool too. It also will sample internally, so I could record what's playing right now and assign that as a sample to something else, which is pretty sweet. We'll talk about the I/O real quick. Left and right outputs for regular outputting. Headphone output is what I'm going through right now. MIDI in and out, actual DINs. Then we have 2 CV tracks, control voltage tracks, and 4 gate out tracks. This actually can interface with modular gear, so that is pretty awesome. Is it just the one low pass filter type at the moment? Yes. You can switch between 12 or 24 dB for that filter, but at the moment there is just one. There's just one low pass filter type. I'm sorry, I'm reading at the same time. There are also angled wood cheeks available. The Deluge is flat by default. It is flat. It's beautifully flat. I like it flat. It's good. I guess angled might be nice, but then I couldn't get this nice top-down angle from cameras, and that's kind of my thing. So, I think I'm going to wind this down. Unless, are there more questions before I say adieu to all y'all and go slave away painting the garage? There will be another filter type coming, as Pierre has stated, and there's a plan for an analog modeled filter, which will be pretty sweet. There's a high-pass filter as well, if you missed that. I can just show that off one more time. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. Oh yeah, wavetables. I wanted to show off wavetables. Yes, hold on. Granular, I don't think quite really granular. I wouldn't say granular, but I can show off wavetable stuff. So we've already shown off that you can do sample loading for an oscillator. So let's see. Shit. Yeah, we'll just do a song so we don't mess this up. There we go. We're back to our square wave. I'm going to hold this down and go load, and I'm going to go to my folder of wavetables, which I don't know if you guys are familiar, guys and gals are familiar with Adventure Kids waveforms. You can Google that. It's like 4,300 waveforms, single cycle waveforms, which is just crazy. And so normally when I would go into sample loading mode, I would hear the sample, but these are tiny, tiny, tiny little cycles, single cycles. They don't sound like anything on their own. I talked about this in the Digitact live stream as well. But when I load one of these, what the Deluge is going to do is samples under a certain length are automatically looped in this thing. And that's what you do with a single cycle waveform. You loop it. Why am I not hearing this? Let's try that again. Load. So that's a waveform. So and a lot of people are familiar with the way that Serum works, and that Serum has like wavetables. It's a similar idea. It's a sound that is being used looped as a oscillator. Oops, I keep on hitting the wrong thing, sorry. And these all kind of sound similar, but that's what you get when you have 4,300 different. There we go, that sounds interesting. So I just have an organ. That's a single cycle waveform, sounding like an organ. That's beautiful. He sounds really good with that reverb too. Play Mario 64. I'll actually go play Mario 64 on my Nintendo 64. I can't get over that. That's beautiful. It's also really loud. Anyways. Okay. If there's not any more questions, I'm going to call it. I'll give it about a few seconds for the stream to catch up here, and actually, you can hear that. Any more questions about La Deluge? We'll be doing more stuff with it, and I'll definitely be doing some proper videos with editing and all that kind of stuff once I have like some songs and stuff like that to show off. I'm really glad to hear that, friends. We should just have a chat sometime as a live stream and talk about making music together. That would be cool. But for now, I'm going to sign off. Thank you, everybody. This has been lovely. I will talk to you soon. See you on the Discord. Thank you for being patrons. Thank you for being cool. Thank you for being you. Have a great rest of your Sunday. And yeah. Cheers.